Welcome to WebRTC Live. In WebRTC Live, we cover the latest technical topics and business use cases for WebRTC and live video. As always, this episode is brought to you by WebRTC.Ventures, leading integrators of WebRTC video into your custom application.
Welcome back to WebRTC Live. I'm Arin Sime, CEO and founder at WebRTC.Ventures, a custom design and development agency focused on building live video applications, and your host of WebRTC Live. Today we have a little bit different format than usual. We are at TADSummit in Paris, and I am moderating a panel discussion today on AI in video and audio communication applications today. So this is a little pre-recorded segment right here while we get set up for the panel. And then as soon as we are ready to start the panel discussion, we will interrupt this and bring you right to that panel discussion. Have an excellent panel today. Our panelists are Pieter Luitjens, co-founder and CTO at Private AI, Lorenzo Miniero, chairman at Meetecho and author of the Janus WebRTC server, Paula Osés, AI engineer at Noumena, Paul Sweeney, chief strategy officer and co-founder at Webio, and Romain Vailleux, DevRel and partnership manager at Apizee. So we're going to have a great conversation about, from all of their different perspectives in the industry, about what they're seeing, how AI is being used in audio and video conversations, things like conversational AI, chatbots, transitions between those bots and human agents, audio transcriptions, processing and keyword identification, conversation summaries, sentiment analysis, object detection. There's so many things that we're all seeing and how AI is being used in communication applications perspective, use cases and architecture and security and privacy and other concerns.
All right, welcome everyone to our panel discussion on AI. We'll be talking about AI in video and voice applications and communication applications in general. We have a full agenda of guests and questions. And also leave some time here. I think we all understand AI has the potential to dramatically impact our industry and the way we interact with our customers and users, whether it's audio transcriptions on calls to AI assistants helping us during a call. The possibilities really do seem limitless right now. I'm not going to get into too much of the hyperbole because I think that there's so much interesting about AI in a very practical sense and the way that we can be using it in our applications and enhancing what we do for our customers. So, but that's just kind of my thoughts. We'll share the thoughts from our panel. We have a variety of industry players here about and hear their perspective on the capabilities and the concerns that the changes of AI will bring. Our panel is being broadcast live on the TADSummit YouTube channel, of course. We're also broadcasting now on WebRTC Live, which is why I have the extra cables here, and apologies in advance if anyone gets up and trips over them. This is a monthly live Q&A session that I host at WebRTC.Ventures, my company, where we speak with industry experts. So let's do some quick introductions. I'm Arin Sime, CEO and founder of WebRTC.Ventures. We're design and development agency focused on building live video applications. We're increasingly also integrating those applications with different types of AI services and conversational AI. So we'll go to each of our panelists, just starting on my right and working down here. I'll ask each of you to briefly introduce yourself, your title, and take a minute or so and tell us a little bit about how you're using AI now in your company. Okay, so let's start with you, Paul.
Take that.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. So Paul Sweeney, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder at Webio. We're a conversational technology company out of Ireland. Most of our businesses into the UK and now this year into Europe. We focus predominantly on credit collections companies. So if you are a credit department or a debt collection agency, maybe you're part of a large bank and you need to contact customers or have them contact you, make arrangements around payments, future payments, payment plans. We run that through conversational AI. So we're very, very clear focus, and we believe that the security and privacy first is essential for our business. So that's why we built our own stack pretty much. That's what we're here for today.
Thank you, Paul. Lorenzo?
Hi everyone, I'm Lorenzo Miniero. I'm one of the co-founders of a small company called Meetecho in the south of Italy. And funny story, I'm the chairman of the company, but I work remotely and we just hired another guy and he's taking my desk, which means I am now the only chairless chairman around. Funny jokes aside, I mean, I'm the author of the Janus WebRTC server, and we work a lot with WebRTC, so we provide consultancy and commercial supports and provide assistance in building things around WebRTC using the Janus WebRTC server. And we've worked a bit with AI as well in different aspects. So more recently, we worked a lot with transcriptions as part of the remote participation support that we provide for ITF meetings. And so transcriptions have been proved an invaluable service within that context. And we expand to work even more on that because the guy that we just hired is actually going to work on AI-related stuff. So we're really excited about different opportunities there.
Excellent. Look forward to hearing more about that. Thank you, Lorenzo.
Hi everyone, I'm Romain. I'm part of Apizee. Apizee is a company that does a SaaS platform for customer services enabled with video. And we also have a full stack platform for WebRTC and communication in general that we rely on, in fact. Yeah, that's it for it. We are 10 years old company, so we're quite used to that market, and we build up our solution step by step, following the market needs and focusing on specific use in terms of customer relationship. So everything about visual engagement in the customer relationship, it's for us.
Romain?
Thank you. My name's Pieter. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Private AI. We're based out of Canada, but have a big presence in the EU as well nowadays. Basically, we're a data redaction company, so anything speech, transcript related and redaction. We're one of the main players in the space. That's it really. If you've used Deep Grammar Assembly, then you've probably used our system. It's white labeled there. So in terms of my background specifically, I'm very big into machine learning deployment and optimization at scale. My background's in computer vision, but as of the last few years, I've been working in NLP. Thank you.
So thank you, Pieter. And speaking of computer vision, Paula?
Hello, my name is Paula, and I'm an AI engineer in Noumena, which is a startup in Barcelona that mainly focuses on empowering decision making in a spatial solution. So basically what we do is that we use computer vision to understand the interaction with different objects. It can be like in urban spaces, office spaces, as well as in retail stores.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So you can see we have a wide range of perspectives here. We have representatives of companies in the WebRTC and video space. We have conversational AI and chatbots. We have AI services and privacy and redaction and video in the public sector as well. So communication applications as well as a broader perspective as well. And so I think there's a lot of interesting perspectives to share here. What I'd like to start with is a little discussion around use cases, and then we'll talk some about architecture and privacy and security, and then open it up for questions for any of you all here as well. So let's start, Lorenzo, let's start with you and talk about what sort of use cases do you see being built with Janus and that justifies bringing in someone to take your seat and work more on AI. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we've actually seen a few different use cases even a few years ago. So the main use case that we see, of course, is related to transcriptions, mostly because it has become one of the building blocks on top of which you build so many more things. And we've started using that ourselves, as I mentioned, with the ITF meetings and so on. But there's actually so much more that could be done because, for instance, we've assisted companies in the past that were in the business of sentiment analysis, for instance, or identity verification. So not only just audio, but also video-related applications. And of course, our involvement at the time was mostly related to how to facilitate making live video or audio accessible to these platforms who may not know anything about WebRTC in the first place. And so that's the usual challenge. But once you have access to the video streams and the audio streams somehow, it's usually relatively easy to then make them available to other teams, which is why we've seen that there are companies that took advantage of the flexibility of Janus within that context to actually try and do some creative things. There was, for instance, a company that prototyped different image manipulation services to make creative videos out of a live video stream. For instance, turn yourself into a Van Gogh picture, or a live Van Gogh picture, or these sort of things. So there's plenty of interesting things that can be done in that space, and I'm excited to see even more in the future.
Thank you. Romain, let's hear about some of the use cases on your side.
I went through some of our customers to survey them about those uses, and in fact, so I've got two main fields. One of the field is detecting defects. So because we work with customer support, right? So they want to understand whether it's a true damage, or if it's only misusage of the equipment or something. So for example, the customer support called, they enable the video, and then the AI will just take the video stream and try to match that with the existing database on pictures of what is working, what is not working, and then prompt the agent with a prompt, a response, an answer, an insight, some clues about whether the situation could be defective or not. So that's one of the use case. We've got also things about like tones and filling detection, mixing video and audio, the words and the tone of the voice, trying to get a good mix and good prediction on whether the conversation is positive, negative, or anything else. And finally, I've got another use case, which is a bit on side, which is also detecting defects on a production line in a manufacturer. So you've got like a manufacturer with product that goes on the line, and they build a system with remote video that watch the production line trying to search for very small defect. They've got camera that like just look at the product and within second try to detect if the product is right to go or need to be re-engineered.
Excellent, thank you. Those are all really interesting, and what I like hearing about in that already is that, especially in video and communication applications, when we talk about AI, I feel like we first talk about things like transcription and taking text from the audio, and then we talk about things that we can do with that text, and the way we can do things like notes from the conversation. But you're both also already seeing more AI being used in the video itself, and things beyond just object detection and changing backgrounds, which is wonderful to see, because I think that's absolutely...
And cat ears, you know.
Yeah, it's
cat ears,
cat
fun,
ears
but
as fun as those are. That's right, exactly. Now, let's come to Paul next. And in Webio, you're a text messaging-based conversational platform. Talk a little bit more about how you're using AI there and the challenges and opportunities around that from your perspective.
Sure. Again, with the very specific context that we work in credit and collections, so there's often a time when people are in such financial difficulty that they've stopped engaging. Like they don't want to hear about it now. If you've got one bill, you probably got 5. If you got 5, you probably got 10. Like you're not the only person that they are wanting to. And so the biggest problem is that people don't engage. And when they don't engage, they get into more and more trouble. Like things do not get better for creditors when they ignore the situation. So the first step is to get them to engage. And funny enough, SMS and conversations is a great way to get them engaged. And it's kind of a little bit through the fact that if you get an SMS, you kind of can choose not to respond straight away, right? So if you've ever been in a situation or a home where they owe money, like I grew up in a house where we owed money, right? People called to the door, people rang looking for money, and letters arrive. Your heart beats, your blood pumps, but also your brain narrows because you've got like a lot of pressure on you. You can't think straight and you can't optimize. So what you actually need is tools that allow you to stop, take a break, think about it, maybe give it a couple of options, and then respond. So if you can frame that right and get people into the conversation, you're now on the first step. You're in a journey with them. And so when we talk about like engagement rates, I know it was mentioned this morning, and again, about engagement rate of 10% in the credit collections or buy now, pay later situation, that's a huge number for people in that industry. Like these are big numbers. So we're seeing similar kind of rates of initial engagement. Now you're engaging and they tell you something, you got to understand, well, what's in that message? Is it an entity of €20? Is it saying, I want to pay? My favorite one is, I'd love to pay, but I can't. It's like, great, you want to pay. I'd love to pay, positive, move on to the next step, right? That's not how it works. But now we're using conversation technologies. You can weigh up the whole sentence. Give you another one. We see messages coming in where someone says, I'd love to pay, but I can't right now because I'm in hospital with my kid. I don't even know if I can pay later or should I pay now. How would I do that? And you go, oh, so how do you parse that message? Yet you need to be able to parse that message and get back and go, the most important thing in that message is I'm at the hospital. That's the most important thing in that message. So you go back and say, hey, it's cool, we're here for you. Relax. You can do this later. There's no pressure on you. We can sort this out. And they go look at it and they go, okay, no one's trying to show me here. Like, I can engage. And so when we say credit and collections conversational design is very specific for this process, we mean it. It's very specific. And you have to try and understand all the different circumstances you can. Come back with a really simple message that helps that person move to the next stage. We take that all the way through a credit collections conversation, all the way through to like schedules for payments in the future, or ways that you might pay, or ways you might want to break that up, like into different amounts and stuff. But at the end of it, that person has self-served their way through renegotiating a payment solution with you. And if you could do that on SMS or WhatsApp or Messenger or web chat, it is a low pressure environment for that person. They can relax more. They can kind of think about it more. They can go away and get more options, do some more reading, come back and answer the questions. So there's actually a bit about the medium itself that lends them to do it. I know there's a lot of talk about video here. Like you might go, oh, video would be great because I could do some sentiment analysis on their face and do triple and do. It's like, yeah, but you're breaking the promise that that person's exposed to you. And this allows them to kind of take a step back and go, well, I'm kind of dealing with a computer here. So that's how we get out of this space.
Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate it. And so if we were starting to make our, on our flip chart, some bullet points of things to think about as you build in AI into your communication application, context is huge, right? And so it's not just about putting on funny ears, funny hats just because you can. Is this actually going to add value to the customer engagement? And that engagement and focusing on that engagement is incredibly important. So I really appreciate and like that perspective about thinking about the asynchronous nature of those conversations actually adding to the engagement value, which I think is really interesting. And so as technologists, I might, tend to automatically think more synchronous, more video, more features, more technology is good. Yes. In this case, may or may not be, right? So context is incredibly important, and even more important, being able to detect things like I'm at the hospital, as you said. So that's great. Thank you, Paul. Now, speaking of context, let's switch to a very different context and talk about video at a more public scale. And I'd like to go to Paula and ask her to tell us a little bit more about the traffic analysis work that you've done with video on a public scale.
Okay, so what we did in Noumena is that we installed cameras in Barcelona to monitor how the people are interacting in the streets, because now in Barcelona they are trying to restructure the city. So to make a green axe, basically, that it will be like without cars and more space for the pedestrians. So basically what we did is that we installed some cameras in different streets. One of them is the one that went under the construction to change it, and some of them stay the same, so it's the one that you use for monitoring. And with that, we ran some algorithms to understand how many pedestrians, cars, bicycles were in the streets and how they were in interaction with the space that they had. And basically now this analysis will be done again with the restructuring of the streets, so we can compare how these fluctuations of people are changed in the different streets. So for now, what we already know is that, of course, people are using more the streets that are in the green axis because it's more comfortable. But then it is true that the streets that are in the next spaces are more congested with more cars. So it's a thing that you need to find some kind of a balance between all of these restructurations.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Pieter next. And to wrap up sort of our use case discussion, tell us a little bit more about private AI, and then I'd like to also know a little bit more about, are there situations where, from your perspective, that you would say AI should not be used at all? It's too sensitive a situation, perhaps, for example.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we do data redaction and our main market is ASR. We also deal a lot with chatbots. As you can imagine, the whole ChatGPT was great news for us. We've been working with chatbot providers for a number of years already. In terms of should applications where AI shouldn't be used, I guess that's a very broad question. I can only speak to the privacy aspect of that. And yeah, in my opinion, although the system design might change depending on what it is, I can't think of a situation where you wouldn't full stop use AI. And yeah, I guess that's where we come in. So example use cases for us are we do a lot with hospitals. We work with a few hospital chains in the US. And medical information, of course, that's very important that that's kept under wraps. So just having a really good data redaction system is very important. Another use case might be, legal information and stuff going through the courts. That also needs to be kept very well under wraps. So I think as long as you properly build and architect systems and make sure that you're in compliance with all the regulations that are coming out, I guess we're in Europe, so of course GDPR, that's important. And there's also the upcoming EU AI Act, which I think people should be talking and thinking a lot more about than what we currently are.
Feel free to start that right now.
We all know. Can't say I'm a massive expert in that, but if we look at the GDPR and how that's gone, because that's been in effect for coming on 5 years now. Most companies, I'll go out on Olympia and I'll say most companies are in some shape or form not compliant. But then how well has the GDPR actually been enforced? Not really that well. But yeah, I think it also really, the main one that it comes down to is customer trust. Like there was a study released last month that even OpenAI, of course, was a lot in the news for privacy violations, which of course was great news for us. Those have largely been resolved, but even now, data privacy concerns are the number one reason why companies are not adopting AI, especially in the enterprise. Also, things like the new Copilot assistant thing that's being built into Windows, a lot of people are turning away from that because I don't want everything on my computer getting hoovered up by Microsoft and going through those systems.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a great segue to, let's talk a little bit about architecture. Let's keep that down with Paula and go to you next. Now, in your use case around traffic analysis and object detection in video on a large scale, you're processing large amounts of video data. So talk a little bit about how you handle the architecture of that system, please.
Okay, so the first, when we started working with it, the first thing that we did is that we basically installed cameras, in Barcelona. And then also because we were working with the municipality, you have some restrictions on how you can use these cameras, where can you attach it, and if you have connection or not. In this case, we could not connect them to the network. So basically what we did is that we recorded specific dates, and then you go, get the data, and then you process it in your office. But of course, this is very bad in terms of scalability because one, you need to buy a lot of GPUs for maybe one project, put everything on the cloud, or what we are doing now that is basically doing edge computing. So in our company, we're designing the cameras that we use to monitor the spaces. And inside of them, we would do it with Raspberries, and basically we input a software, and now it's basically a software that just sends the data to us or saves it, and then we go and collect it. But what we are studying now is how we can use these cameras to already run the object detection algorithms or the face recognition algorithms or, I don't know, the pose estimation algorithms inside there. So basically what we're gonna do is that we will have the cameras in the spaces, extract the data, so record the video, in the same moment run the algorithm and create a database. In this way, in the database, you're only gonna have, for instance, a car in this position, but you're not gonna have the whole image. So it's gonna be much faster to process than this data on the offices.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's go to Romain next and talk about architecture and sustainability a little bit, because when we're dealing with intense processing of such large amounts of data, we're doing it at scale across either many traffic intersections or many voice conversations or video calls. It's a lot of processing goes on there. So it's much like blockchains, we have concerns, about the carbon footprint of that. Talk a little bit about your perspective on that.
Yeah. So my point is, in fact, I'm gonna follow up your intervention because trying to put some of the load on the edge of the system might be a solution. Might be. I mean, you need to find a balance, of course, but it might be a solution to prepare and simplify. I mean, lower the weight of the data that you need to then centralize in some infrastructure like, I don't know, the cloud or something. So that might be a first thing. I just want to recall that maybe 3 or 4 or 2 to 3% of the total carbon emission from the digital come from the digital economy. 2 to 3%. So that's a huge. I mean, we've got a lot to do on that, and 1% of that. I mean, 1% total comes from video streaming. I mean, video streaming, not only WebRTC, etc. Of course, it's Netflix and
it's Netflix as well.
Of course. I just want to point out that it's very intensive in terms of use of the whole infrastructure. So another piece of thinking that I give to you is that 3/4 of the environmental impact of digital economy is on the terminals, so on the device that you've got in your hands. So the longer you keep that terminal, the better for us, of course. So if you design a new system and maybe there's something to think about, like to be compliant, to remain compliant with the old devices. If you push forward, if you use the new technologies, always, I mean, at the first, you're going to push forward the people to change their device. Okay, you're gonna put some features that they will not be available to use. In some case, I mean, you can hear that you need to avoid useless feature. Okay, right. Every feature that comes into my roadmap should be useful, of course. But if at some point you find out that a feature is not used, you need to have designed your software so that you can remove that feature without breaking your old system. So at some point when you design your architecture, it's a good point to say, how can I deactivate and remove the load of that feature from my system.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. All right, we have till 3:30, is that right? Okay, so we've got about 10, 12 minutes here. I have a number of other questions I want to get to, but I'm going to pause there for a moment and see if we have any questions from anyone here in the room. I want to make sure that we address that. Yes.
Yeah. Grab the microphone. And yeah, thank you. Listen, that was a really interesting panel discussion, and I think for Paula, right, and Romain, both of you have touched on something that's very close to sort of what my company does, which is I hear words like edge computing, which I find really funny because for me it's all just a big continuum of the cloud, right? And the reason why my company is called Field Cloud is because we bring the cloud to the field. and the field is in your streets or in the factory floor, which is mainly our playground. So my question here, it really has got to do with what do you see as the biggest sort of like challenges and inhibitors to actually move more workload closer to where the actual real world, interaction or events happen? When it comes to video, you've obviously got a bunch of codecs and a bunch of decoding that you need to do. You need to detect certain patterns, and you can only cram so much computing power into a small space. And it seems like over the last decade and a half, we've got a little bit lazy on, the way we approach cloud computing, right? Because it was all about hyperscale. And somewhere along the line, we forgot about the fallacies of distributed computing. Some of us with grey beards were old enough to have dealt with Sun Microsystems and Pieter Deutsch's great list of the fallacies, basically saying that, bandwidth is infinite, like the network is 100% reliable, there's zero latency. And we know that that's not true. So I'm kind of understanding when it comes to you guys working on your more modern architectures, what is your number one problem, right, that is preventing you from actually going out and building a proper distributed system? Or are you saying, doesn't matter, we've got the cloud, and all we need is a great, big, abundant, zero latency data pipe?
Thank you. Anyone in particular want to take that? Lynn or Peter, I know you want to talk about scalability as well, but here.
Yeah, I think we can't answer the question in a short manner. I think the number one constraint is power. I think it's the only one. I mean, when you want to distribute the power, the computing power on your mobile device, the number one constraint is, does that put my battery at 0 in 5 minutes or not? And I think it's quite the same when you try to have some computing power that goes on the field anywhere, whether you can access to enough power electrical power to operate that.
Good point. Do you want to say something, or I can?
For me, with what you said.
I'll stick one on there. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not in my area. That's the caveat. But we ran a conference on conversation technology around 3 years ago, and we had the agricultural-based drones by a company in France actually coming over, looking over the vineyards and stuff. And really, I think the kind of breakthrough thought from that for me was, don't look at it as a drone, it's a system. And if you think about it systemically, then you go, well, if that drone was powered by solar electricity, then that power is free. So you break out of that constraint. So maybe a part of that solution, looking at the individuals, again, just breaking back and going, it's part of a systems approach that will get around that.
Yeah, I would just talk about LLMs because, that's the topic of today. I think with the whole LLM paradigm today, that's also that's just not possible to do on edge devices. It's not even really possible to do that on single GPUs. We hear a lot of people with privacy right, okay, I want a privacy preserving versions of ChatGPT. Okay, I'll take Llama 2 or whatever the latest open source model is, and I'll run that myself. And then not just the compute power required to run those models, just one instance is already coming on 100 grand a year just in terms of compute. But companies like OpenAI, they've spent so much time, money, and effort on distributed computing and optimization, and it's actually a lot more efficient in terms of how these things run internally to run on 1,000 GPUs than 1 or 8 when it comes to things like GPU memory bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's just made me think of the question that you asked earlier on about places where AI may not be appropriate. Okay. You may have inadvertently answered the question that was asked, because for me, this might be a great example where LLMs are not appropriate and we might be solving the problem in the wrong way.
Well, we should at least consider the use. Are we getting the value from it that justifies the power
Yeah.
and the centralized nature of an architecture versus being able to do edge where possible. There were a couple other hands up and we're short on time, so I need to move on. We had another question here in the back too, please. Thank you.
Pieter, when the question went around about applications where you can't use AI, it was quite interesting that we kind of focused on applications where privacy meant you can use AI. Maybe for the whole panel, and I'll let any of you take it that want to. Are there applications where we shouldn't use AI because of safety reasons?
Yeah, that's definitely a different question, which I'm not qualified to answer, unfortunately. So
I have an answer as always. But I'll wait. Let's have someone else talk about it. Okay. So one of the answers I have to that is empathy. So everyone says empathy AI, and empathy AI is a category error. An AI cannot empathize with a human. So where you've got do your process, get your information, gather your information, give people the ability to contribute. But if you need to empathize with someone, or empathy is a part of your solution, then your job is to put two people together and take away as much friction from that relationship as possible. Okay, I didn't fail. Great.
Thank you. And we could have time for maybe one more question. Yes, let's go here.
Thank you. It was great. I had a question for Paul. You talked about the advantage of asynchronous communication or low bandwidth communication, like text messages, for interacting with the customers. Are they aware that they are dealing with an AI? And if it's the case, I believe so, is it an advantage actually that they know they're talking to a machine compared to a human?
So always let everyone know they're talking to a machine first. It's just good design, because people feel fooled if they find out later, and if you're fooled, you've broken trust. So always let people know up front. What's the next part of the question?
Yeah. Do you think they open up, or they are less pressure
I remember
because it's a machine?
There's two parts to that. So when people, like historically, like over the last 20, 30 years, they've done the research, people feel better talking or disclosing, it's called in the industry, information to an automated machine, because a person is judging them. And their biggest fear is they'll feel judged. So a machine can't judge them and is not judging them. So they can feel they can disclose more and maybe find out if they're able to get a solution. The third thing I'll say about all kind of customer service experiences, again, just research shows this, is if you're in a process and you feel you're in a structured process, you feel that you're going to get to an outcome. So you trust the process to get you to the solution. So if you can convey these things while also conveying a sense of flexibility, conveying senses of other things, but they're in a process that will get them a solution. If you can do that, then you're in a good design, you'll get contribution.
All right, thank you. That's all the time that we have for questions, and I apologize for this having to be short, but thankfully we are all here in person and our panel will be too, so please feel free to continue your questions there. If you're watching us online, you don't get that advantage, sorry, but thanks for joining us as well, and maybe you can join us at TADSummit in person in the future. So let's take just a quick moment for each panelist, and I just want to give you a chance, because we definitely didn't get to all the questions that I had either. I want to give you a chance to just say any concluding remarks that you have. If there was something you wanted to make sure you address, feel free to throw that out. Or if we've covered everything you wanted to say, just give us your quick prediction on what's the next big step in AI with respect to your industry and your use cases. Start with Paula.
Okay. Sorry, let me think. For me, I think that, well, for us now, it's being able to optimize our process. So basically, we're putting on a lot of efforts on improving how we're dealing with all of this data. And also because we're operating in different countries, we have to have a specific types of agreements with this. Like, depending on the country, you have some privacy issues or others. So when you are working with data, this is a big deal also for us. So we are trying to find a solution that is able to contain everyone.
Thank you. And also, by the way, feel free if you want to direct anybody to your websites or anything for more information, feel free to do that also, please.
yeah, I'll happily do that. AI.com. Thank you. Yeah, just concluding remarks for me. Just a couple of things for anyone who is considering data anonymization, redaction, privacy, compliance. Be very careful of how well the system you use actually works. So with things like audio transcripts, they're very broken up. Like just general purpose systems do not work well unless they've been optimized. And I think the other one to really watch out for today, although OpenAI has solved for the large part all the things that are in the news about and banned in Italy, for example, earlier this year, is the fine tuning. So anything you put into one of these generative AI models at training time is liable to pop out. So just be careful with what you're sharing too, especially with startups. I guess we work with a lot of startups. Just make sure they're on top of their data privacy. Some of the things we've seen are not ideal, to say the least.
Check with legal. We'll add that to our to-do list.
I'm going to follow up also because I was something what is interesting after data privacy and GDPR stuff is sovereignty. I don't know if it ring a bell at your ears because I don't know where you're from, but in France and in Europe, we've got kind of a huge attention to that. And I think that the whole thing about AI needs to be very to pay attention about who we are passing the data to, and finding some ways to make sure that we are respecting the chain of custody across all the actors that we are soliciting in our ecosystem to make sure that our own customers are not fooled by sharing data to other organizations that with other low environment. Another thing, yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any prediction, more excitement towards the possibilities because, and I think, for instance, Dave made an excellent point in his presentation before where he said, today you can just click a button and transcriptions happens and everything goes. And that's something that was not possible just a few years ago. So technology has moved at a really breakneck speed, and now it's we have a lot of things related to AI and ML that are really much more accessible than they were before, not only to very high-end companies, but pretty much everybody. And for instance, companies provide solutions like Banafo, which also provide you to put things on premise and take advantage of things like this much more easily. So that's why I'm very excited about the new things that can be done now that everything is much more accessible and technology is much easier to use for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Paul?
Me again.
Oh, okay. Yeah. One last time.
Talking.
Quick prediction. Every company will have a custom language model.
All right. That is a quick and bold prediction. Let's end there. And thank you very much to all of you for your excellent questions. Thank you to Alan and TADSummit.
Can I add a word? Yeah, I find it, a word. Tonight. That's it. Tonight. There is. We've got something at a venue. We can drink some drinks.
That's right. There will be.
Yeah, because in fact we are. I mean, I'm part of a community which is called WebRTC Paris, and in fact we are a small community building out around WebRTC. Of course, if you want to join us, and see you tonight.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
Quick question for the local. What's the best way to get there from here?
Oh yeah, I won't do it. Okay, come to me. I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna tell them. Okay.
All right. Thank you again to all of you for your questions, and thank you to our excellent panelists. Let's have a round of applause for them.
Watch the cables. Yeah, watch the cables.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, and thanks again for joining us today for this live stream from TADSummit and for our panel discussion on AI in voice and video communication applications. Thank you to our panelists today, Pieter, Lorenzo, Paula, Paul, and Romain, and for all of them sharing their expertise and their industry perspective on this incredibly important topic. As always, you'll be able to watch the replay of this on our YouTube channel for WebRTC.Ventures. You can also see it on the TADSummit YouTube channel, as well as we'll be posting a summary to our blog at WebRTC.Ventures. So check us out there. And make sure that you join us for the next episode of WebRTC Live. On Wednesday, November 8th, we'll be speaking at 12:30 p.m. Eastern with Robert Storrell from Digital Samba, and we'll be speaking about privacy and security in video applications. So join us for that conversation. We look forward to seeing you there. Register at WebRTC.ventures. Thanks for joining us for WebRTC Live. Let's make it live.
Thanks for joining us for WebRTC Live. Visit our website at WebRTC.ventures to learn more about our custom design and development services, and to learn more about upcoming episodes of WebRTC Live.